I'm a new kid on the block, so I'll tell you, my name is Rupanuga. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, grand disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And it's my great pleasure to be with you again. We're missing some people. Janaki, I understand, is still in New York. And Jose is where? Gainesville? Miami. Someone posted a picture of the deities in Miami this morning. I just saw it. And I was thinking, there's a temple in Miami? Great. I'm very glad to hear it. What is the capital city of Florida? Do you recall? Tallahassee. There's a temple there also, I believe, isn't there, or a preaching center? Very nice, very nice. The deities, and incidentally, were quite beautiful that I saw, the pictures of them from Miami. Miami, wow. Things are going on. Does anyone know who the principal leader is, the temple president in Miami? Don't know.
He's a sannyasi, but I don't remember his name.
Okay. Welcome, Bali. Prabhu. Nice clean head this morning. We're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam this morning, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, and we'll be reading texts 8 through 21. And then we'll be coming back and focusing on text number 13. So before we do, we will offer our invocation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Sri Radha and Kalachandji. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Tatai Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bol All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Charja Hasto Tadasata Sri Srimad. His Divine Loving Grace Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Charja Asto Tadasata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Guru Parampara Ki. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Mathura Dham Ki. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Shri Shri Radha Kalachandi Dham Ki. Ganga Devi Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Tulsi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samavita Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Briyat Baranga Transcendental Book and Prasadam Distribution Ki. Nitai Gaura Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatodesh Tarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Preshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yattama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Canto 2, Chapter 2, beginning with text number 8. Bali, would you please read text number 8, please? Just translation. Nice looking tilak you have on this morning, Prabhu.
Thank you. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body, in the region of the heart, and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively.
Okay, text number 9, please. Drishtadyumna, Prabhu.
His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress with earrings.
So we're getting a pretty good look, a pretty good description of how the Supreme Personality of Godhead dresses and how he looks. Okay? Prabhu?
His lotus feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers.
Very nice picture of the Supreme Lord. It's a pity that others don't know that he has a form, he has a personality, and he has concern for us. Please, this will be text number 11.
He is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing.
Nice person to look at. Text number 12. I'm going to ask Nanda Braj to read text number 12. Can you see?
The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on his transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation.
Bali Prabhu. Text number 12, please. No, I'm sorry. Text number 13.
The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified.
And we'll come back and read the purport to text number 13 after we've chanted through text number 21. Text number 14, please, Dristaduna Prabhu.
Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties.
Okay, this is text number 15.
O king, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed and, regulating the life air, should control the senses by the mind.
Thank you, Jagari Prabhu. Yes, number 16.
Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities.
Okay, this is the yogi. Okay. Who's next?
In that transcendental state of labhasanti, labhopasanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods who are empowered to rule over mundane creatures. And what to speak of the demigods themselves? Nor is there mode of material goodness, nor passion, nor ignorance, nor even the false ego, nor the material casual ocean, nor the material nature.
All right, that's causal ocean, right? And notice that in this verse it says, and what to speak of the demigods themselves. So I had to read this text about 3 times before I could figure out that we're talking about the supremacy of devastating time which controls even the celestial demigods who are empowered to rule over the mundane creatures. And I'm not sure why Prabhupada apparently repeats himself and says what to speak of the demigods themselves. In other words, but I understand from this text that this devastating time controls even the demigods themselves. Okay, so let's go on. Text number 18, please. Who's reading?
The transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know that supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart.
Pure devotee does not create perplexities. And it doesn't say for whom, but we presume, I might presume here that he means perplexities for the others who are around him or her. Okay, text number 19, please, Drishtadyumna Prabhu.
By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization, and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot, by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places.
Okay, now this is a process that is intended for those who wish to gain some kind of liberation by the means of yoga. This is not something that has been recommended by Srila Prabhupada, as far as I know, or by my spiritual master, both of whom did not go through this particular process. But they were not practicing mystic yoga. They were practicing bhakti yoga. And in bhakti yoga, it doesn't really matter, as Prabhupada points out, it doesn't really matter where one is, what the circumstances are. The one who has been practicing bhakti yoga can end his life wherever he happens to be, because his state of mind, in particular the remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of departure, is what determines his next destination. The Supreme Lord takes control. He's not controlled by the laws of mystic yoga. Okay? Jai Hari Prabhu.
Text 20. The meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence.
Okay. And text number 21.
Thereafter, the Bhakti Yoga should push the life air up between the eyebrows and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air. He should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme.
Okay, so this is quite a process to follow for one who has made the decision to give up his body at a particular time. Okay, that was text number 21. So now we're going to go back to text number 13, as we have been instructed to do. And Drishtadyumna Prabhu, would you please read text number 13 again, please, translation? Are we going to do the? Yeah, let's do the word for word Sanskrit, or maybe we'll do it line by line. How's that? So, if you will, have you got text number 13 up here? Yeah. Okay, and have you got Sanskrit on the board? Okay. Okay, I think that's the right one. Ekaikashongani dhyanubhavayat. Padadiyavadasitam gadabrita. Jitam jitam stanam apoya darayat. Param param shurati dir yata yata. Let's do it once again. Drishtadyumna Prabhu, would you please recite the verse and we'll follow. Ekaika Songani Dyanubhavayet. Paradiyavadashitam Gadabrita. Jitam Jitam Stanam Apuya Dayarayet. Param Param Shudati Dir Yata Yata.
Ikaksho Nagani Dhyanu Bhavayat.
Dina Babu.
Adhadiyavadasitam Gadabaratama.
Paradiyavadashitam Gadabrita.
Jitam Jitam Stanam Apoya Dirayat.
Jitam Jitam Stanam Apuya Darayat.
Param Param Sujate Dir Yata Yata.
Param Param Sudyati Dir Yata Yata. Anyone else want to chant the verse, please? Ekaika Songani Dyanubhavayat. Padadiyavadasitam Gadabrita. Jitam Jitam Stanam Apuya Darayat. Param Param Sudyati Dir Yata Yata. Word for word translations. Eka Ekasha. One to one or one after another.
One to one or one after another.
Angani.
Angani.
Limbs. Diya.
Diya.
By attention.
By attention.
Anubhavayat.
Anubhavayat.
Meditate upon.
Meditate upon.
Para adi.
Para adi.
Legs, etc.
Etc. Legs, etc.
I don't know what etc. It means things like legs. Etc. means like the example that has been given. So I'm not sure what is intended by etc. Yavat.
Yavat.
Until.
Until.
Hasitam.
Sitam.
Smiling. Gadabrita.
Gadabhata.
The personality of Godhead.
Personality of Godhead.
Jitam Jitam.
Jitam.
Gradually controlling the mind.
Gradually controlling the mind.
Sanam.
Sanam.
Place.
Place.
Apoya.
Apoya.
Leaving.
Leaving.
Darayat.
Darayat.
Meditate upon.
Meditate upon.
Param Param.
Param.
Higher and higher.
Higher and higher.
Shudyati.
Sudyati.
Purified.
Purified.
Dehi.
Dihi.
Intelligence. Yata Yata.
Yata. Yata.
As much as.
As much as.
Okay, now, just to do a report, would you kindly read the translation again in English?
The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way, higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified.
Okay, Bali Prabhu, would you kindly read the first paragraph with the purport?
The process of meditation recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam is not to fix one's attention on something impersonal or void. The meditation should concentrate on the person of the Supreme Godhead, either in his Virat Rupa, the gigantic universal form, or in his Satchit Ananda Vigraha, as described in the scriptures. There are authorized descriptions of Vishnu forms, and there are authorized representations of deities in the temples. Thus, one can practice meditating upon the deity, concentrating his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and gradually rising higher and higher, up to his smiling face.
Jai Hare Prabhu, would you read the second paragraph, please?
According to the Bhagavad school, the Lord's Ras dance rasa dance is the smiling face of the Lord. Since it is recommended in this verse that one should gradually progress from the lotus feet up to the smiling face, we shall not jump at once to understand the Lord's pastimes and the rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and tulsi to the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, we gradually become purified by the archana process. We dress the Lord, bathe him, etc., and all these transcendental activities help us purify our existence. When we reach the higher standard of purification, if we see the smiling face of the Lord or hear the rasa dance pastimes of the Lord, then we can relish his activities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, the rasa dance pastimes are delineated in the 10th canto, chapters 29 to 34.
Gokulananda Prabhu, would you read the next paragraph? Let's see.
Transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, the thighs, or the chest, the more one becomes purified. In this verse, it is clearly stated, the more the intelligence becomes purified, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present conditioned state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence.
Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in archana or to touch the transcendental form of Radha and Krishna or Vishnu deities. For them it is better to meditate upon the gigantic rupa of the Lord. As recommended in the next verse, the impersonalists and voidists are therefore recommended to meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, whereas the devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple, because the impersonalists and the voidists are not sufficiently purified in their spiritual activities. Archana is not meant for them.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamaya Tadati Swabrantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karana Sando Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Adi Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Varaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswaminiti Namane. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us in the translation, the process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to the smiling face. So I think what is really Prabhupada is trying to get us to understand is that we should begin at the bottom of the deity, the lowest point of the deity, the lotus feet, and then concentrate our minds on the legs, the thighs, and then the upper parts of the body. And this is the way that we should. Doing so is going to do what for us? What was stated? Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. So purification means, and we usually think about that not as so much as purification, but just gaining some intelligence. But I think that this is what Srila Prabhupada had in mind in the purport, is that we have intelligence, we have some intelligence. Now, how to purify that intelligence, and therefore our intelligence increases, the intelligence itself increases. Just as we have understood in the past, just by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, we become purified. Just by reading the words that are in the Bhagavatam. So if that's the way to become purified, so that we no longer have to take birth in this material world, who would not do it? Who would not take the time to read the Srimad Bhagavatam? And yet, I don't read enough myself. I don't read enough every day. But this is according to the instruction we're getting. Another point here is that we, just as we approach the deities by looking at his lotus feet, or her lotus feet, Srimati Radharani. So also, if we want to get the full understanding of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we begin at the beginning, at the first chapter, with the first chapter. And if you have read that recently, you'll remember that Srila Prabhupada put some very elaborate purports in for each one of the verses, practically, of the first canto. And now we're in the second canto, and we're seeing in what we've read today, that Srila Prabhupada also gives some very elaborate purports. Now, some people say, well, it takes too long to read all those purports, and besides, Srila Prabhupada repeats himself a lot. But there's the reason for that. Just as if we want to learn a text, or learn a verse, or we want to learn a song, we can do that by just simply repeating the words again and again. Some of you remember some of the songs that you learned when you were a child. You can still repeat those words, can't you? And what to speak of as a child, when we were growing up in the hippie days, and we were hearing so much really good rock and roll music in the 1970s, 1980s. Even today, those words will come circulating in our consciousness. Some of the words that I learned from songs were in the church, the little country church that I went to. We sang those songs enough that even today those songs come back into my consciousness and I can remember them. I was just listening yesterday to one of those songs that I learned many years ago, performed by the combined choirs of Brigham Young University. And you can find that on the internet. And the words are absolutely stunningly beautiful to listen to. And their production of that song, as it had been arranged by some musical scholar, is also very, very delightful to listen to. Now, we're not trying to equate what we learned back then with what we have learned since we came into touch with Srila Prabhupada. I sent out a message on the internet yesterday on Facebook. Some of you perhaps have seen it. And that was, yesterday I celebrated the 50th anniversary of my receiving of my first book, a Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, and at that time it was divided into 3 parts because I think Prabhupada wanted to get things published as quickly as possible. Now we have it in 1 volume, which is also very nice. But this is, that was the first occasion. I was just walking down the street during a break at work in Knoxville, Tennessee. I won't repeat the whole story. But anyhow, I came across a group of young fellows that were on the sidewalk chanting or singing or doing something, and they were dressed in strange clothes, kind of like Dristadumna is dressed in today. Nice saffron robes. And incidentally, you always look very nice in your saffron robes. If any person who takes really good care of his cloth and makes sure that it's either pressed or it's not all wrinkly, that makes a great impression. So you're following in the footsteps, really, of your mother's spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. He chose his cloth very carefully. So these are things that we learn to do just by being in the presence of other devotees, and also listening, and by reading, and by chanting in the temple room. All of these things will come back to us at the time that we need them the most. At the time of our greatest fear. What is that? Death. Death. Of course, we know that for the spirit soul, there's neither birth nor death. For, let's see, how is it said? The new translation, which I like better, as a matter of fact, than the old one. The old one was, for the soul, there's neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. So, anyhow, there's been some controversy about that, but I understand that if you say having once been, that means that there was a time before when you did not be. You were not in existence. So the new translation is, what is it?
There was a time when I, nor you, nor any of these kings ceased to be.
So Nanda Braj Prabhu is saying, never was there a time when I or you or all these kings present on the battlefield ever did not exist. There was never a time that they did not exist. Okay, so we understand from what Prabhupada has given us that things that we didn't know before we came into contact. Bala, did you know that before you came into contact with Krishna consciousness, that you were eternal and you were not this body? Maybe you did. Now, it depends on what you've been reading. Now, I did a lot of reading before I actually came into contact with Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada answered questions in such a way that I had never had them answered before. So how do we purify our consciousness then? A number of ways to do that. One is by chanting the holy names of the Lord every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Another is remembering some of the texts that we remember. Matra sparshas takuntaya, shitosna shukudukada, agamapayino nityastam stidikchachva bharatam. Dehi no smenyata dehe, komaram yovanam jara, tata deham, what is it? Tata deham praptir, dhirastatra namuyati. There's so many of them that they just, you don't really have to think about the words that you're chanting in front of the deities, when we sing, or practically the words that we're chanting in Prabhupada's Guru Puja. We've sung them so many times and we've read them on the board so many times that they just come to us when we need them. And that's the wonderful thing about chanting the mantras that are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam or in the Bhagavad Gita. That in a time when you what is it? What do they say? When you knock on your door, there's someone there to answer. In other words, when you need something to give you spiritual support, then those words come flowing back to you. There were many songs like that we heard in our church that we went to back. Now, Dristadumna Prabhu has grown up in this community. He's grown up with Krishna consciousness. I don't know whether you've had any way to compare Krishna consciousness with other philosophies, other religions, the way they are being performed now. I don't know whether any of you takes the time to listen occasionally to a sermon that is given. There used to be a Catholic priest that he would give what he called a homily on, and I would hear this on WRR radio, which is the classical radio station here that I listen to sometimes because I love classical music. But this man, and I can't remember his name, he's a local priest, And every Sunday he would have some words to say, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Then he would have some very beautiful music that he would have recorded, and he would play that also. And he's since retired from doing that. But I thought that was a really nice thing to do. Nonetheless, when I listen to it, I'm making comparisons. And welcome back. We missed you. And so when we hear something that is supposed to be representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it doesn't measure up to what we have learned in Krishna consciousness, then that helps us to understand that we have been fortunate enough to stumble upon something, or to have somebody force into our hands and into our minds some knowledge that we did not have before. So we say, thank God for Prabhupada. We shall end here. Questions or comments, please. Get the microphone, please. Jai Hari Prabhu.
Earlier when you were, thank you for the great class, brother. Earlier when you were reading the verses, when we were all reading, there was a talk about putting someone into a perplexity. I was just curious if you could talk about that for a little bit. Like, what is an example of a perplexity? Okay, now excuse me a minute. Would you repeat?
He said in one of the verses in the translation, it mentioned that we shouldn't, that the advanced devotee never puts anybody in perplexity. So he's asking if you might speak about that, about not putting people in perplexity.
Okay, thank you. The hearing is gone. Thank you very much for the comment, for the question, actually. That is about the perplexion, that we're not supposed to cause perplexion to anyone. And I think Srila Prabhupada has also said, or maybe this was Krishna speaking in the Bhagavad Gita, that we should never cause difficulty for another person. What does he say? Do not give this knowledge to those who are inimical. Do not give this knowledge to those. This right at the end, toward the end of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, this knowledge is very confidential. It's not to be given to those persons who are envious or inimical toward me. And so by causing perplexity. Now, I asked this question one time, is it proper for us to be trying to get people to take books that they don't really want? And I was thinking, because that's like causing them perplexity. You know, sometimes they become angry with us. Sometimes they are rude. Sometimes they just ignore us. But Prabhupada has instructed us to do so. And so we understand that we're not causing perplexity. We're trying to end the perplexity that other people who are not accustomed to hearing Prabhupada's words, they're having to experience in their lives every day. So we also have read recently in classes here that think how it was put. Well, I guess I can't think of the exact the way it was worded that when we're reading. But anyhow, we're supposed to, if we're kind people, if we feel some desire to help someone overcome the difficulties that they're continuing to go through, and I think that was it. The verse that, or the text that I was trying to remember had something to say about any activity that is done just for the pleasure of the senses has negative results. Have you heard that before? Anything that is done, any activity that we perform, if it's not for the purpose of spiritual enlightenment, if it's not for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then it causes reactions. So we have a lot of feelings or sympathy for persons who have not heard this wisdom before, Jai Hari Prabhu, and therefore we don't intend to cause them to be perplexed, but we have to take the risk that they will actually become angry with us and say some nasty words, maybe even take a swing at us. But still, we take that chance because we want other people not to suffer. Like your mother and father. Do you like to see them suffer? Have you seen them suffer before? Yeah, my wife's father is 96 years old now. And he lived a very full life. You know, materially, he was a very good man. He, in his community that he grew up in and lived in with his family, he was considered to be a good man. But because of lack of knowledge, he is now being perplexed by the way the material energy is coming at him. You know, he's losing it. His body is tending to shut down on him now. And so we would like for persons, when they get to that point, of course, not many of us are going to reach 96 years of age, I don't think. I don't plan to. But when we get to that age when the body begins to fail us and the people around us begin to fail us, then we realize what Prabhupada meant when he was talking about fallible soldiers. They just don't provide what we need. And that has to do with a lot of the knowledge that we've gained throughout the years. So now we have the opportunity to gain knowledge which will end our perplexity, and it will get us out of this material world, which is available only to those who practice bhakti yoga. For those who practice other kinds of yoga, it may get them liberation if they get really good at doing it, but it will not get them out of the material world. So we understand that bhakti yoga is necessary for going back to the kingdom of God. Okay, anything else? Yes, Gokulan Prabhu. Speak in the microphone first, please.
So thank you very much for your wonderful class. So in the purport, it was mentioned how to meditate on the beautiful form of the Lord, starting with the lotus feet. So my question is, why in our temples Radharani's lotus feet are always covered? As far as I can think about, the only reason I can think of is, there are so many types of people coming to the temple, materialistic people, and they may not understand the supreme position of Srimati Radharani. So they may, cast their lustful glance or something. Is there any other reason apart from this?
All right, give me a moment.
Did you say whose feet are always covered? Okay, Radharani, her feet are always covered, and he's wondering why her feet are always covered if we're supposed to start at her feet and go up. Is this possibly because people might be lustful in their glance at Radharani's feet, and so, yeah.
So why can we see Radharani's face but not her feet?
Yeah, in the book it talks about meditation, like going along.
Yes, yes. So neither can we touch Radharani's feet unless you happen to have the good fortune of getting second initiation and becoming a pujari. And that's recommended very highly that one do that. But you can, if you're in your mind, you can touch her feet. Now, what the particular reason is for her not showing her feet, I don't know, because she shows them every day to the pujari. I think it's a matter of, I think it's maybe, here's a little speculation on my part based on 50 years of speculation, and that is, I think that perhaps, just like if someone comes up and tries to touch your own feet, better not to let them, because there is power that is transferred to the feet. In other words, you're accepting some of the karmic reactions of the person who touches your feet. Same as that of taking prasadam. And Justadun Prabhu was mentioning, he was asking me a question at one time about allowing someone else to take your prasadam. My spiritual master, he did not want his prasadam distributed generally to all people, mainly to his disciples, because those are the ones who had come to him looking for blessing. So maybe Srimati Radharani does not want the ordinary people who have nothing but materialistic desires to even glance at her feet, because in glancing at her feet, they're sure to get some kind of spiritual help. Yes, and there's even some question about showing her feet. I mean, the pujaris showing feet on Radhastami. We usually have been doing it on Radhastami, lifting her skirt just a little bit so that her toes and her feet were showing. But that's the only day of the year that at least in this community, that has been done. And there's some talk about whether even it should be done at that time. I'm not advanced enough to give you a good answer on that. You'll have to speak with someone who has more spiritual realization than I do. Anything else? All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Kalachandjidam ki jai. And we offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone, and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Everybody, please chant the holy names of the Lord.